Can I just have a show of hands? How much of you have already started your own company with a funding? Okay, and with a funding now? Okay, and who wants to get VC funding? Okay. So if you have any questions, I will go through the slides rather quickly, so you have like the basics to have a conversation, and then we can have a talk and yet. I think that sounds good, hopefully. Okay, so let's talk about VC funding. Okay, so I'm Diana, and I'm one of the partners in Smok Ventures, and we are an early-stage VC fund. We do investments into startups and gaming studios. Oh, and we go into companies pretty early, so we do pre-seed and seed. So we tend to be the first investor in the company. So usually when you have like a game concept, sometimes just a sketch, sometimes a prototype, so very early, and then we help to get the next investors on board. Oh, and before that, I run an acceleration program for startups, and I'm a physicist officially from the education, but I try not to use that. Okay, so I'll go through funding opportunities, so just list of what's available to you as founders of the gaming companies. Then what exactly is a VC fund, because that's not always sure for people generally outside of the VC world and startup world, and if you should take money from us, and when you are a good fit, how to get the investments, and what are the most common reasons for a no when we turned out the companies. Because unfortunately, we are in the business of saying no. So most of the times when companies come to me, I have to say no, because first year we started operating and investing, we had like 1,000 companies pitching to us, and we have invested into 12 of them. So the odds of us investing are pretty low, I would say. So so we have to go through the companies rather quickly and look for those red flags. Okay, so very quickly, financing options. So generally, sometimes more serial founders, they start with their own resources. Sometimes you start with the 3 Fs, so friends, family, and fools. You get to invest into your company. Then you have business angels, accelerators, and grants. You had the gaming grant operating in Poland recently. There is crowdfunding, publishers. You can go onto stock exchange, to the private equity funds, and there are VC funds. They're private ones. They're backed by the PFR, so by the Polish government agency, and NCBR, so this is a Polish R&D agency, so if you're doing something more into R&D space. And we will focus today on the VC funding generally. So let's see. Would a VC fund be better for you, and when it might be a good way to go? So what exactly is a VC fund? So generally, it's a high risk, high reward. So we go in pretty early, but we expect much bigger exits from the companies. This is equity financing, so generally we give the money to the company and we take equity, and then in a few years, we want to sell this equity with a reward. It's inorganic growth, so it means the company cannot move slowly. You have to go very fast, because in 8 years, you want your company to be worth enough for us to be worthy of the effort. And it's a lot of experimenting. It's in gaming space, in startup space. So generally, it's also the VC funding for the companies who want to experiment more and try new business models, new markets, and so on. So you are also expected kind of to fail in some times. So for us, the odds are if we invest in 10 companies, I expect half of them to fail, few of them to have like a decent exits, and 1 to give me some money back, hopefully, to cover the rest of the investments. And generally, so that's that about. And why is it a better way to go to the VC funding? Because you can go to to publishers and so on. So generally, it's more about your long-term strategy. So it depends if you want to create a game, and that's also cool if you just need money to create just one game. But we as a VC funds, we don't look for people who just want to create games. We look for people who want to create companies. So if you have a plan to create a studio, to have a portfolio of companies, to have a lot of people working with you, and this is a long-term plan for you, then we are on board, because we want to see that potential in this sphere. And it's not just about, as VCs, we invest into many companies, so it's like diversification of portfolio. So it's the same with the gaming studios. So you diversify your portfolio of games, and the potential of the exits on one of them is also bigger. It's also about raising next rounds. So generally, if we invest as a VC fund into a company, we don't expect to be the last funding you get. So we go into your company, we take like 10, 15% of the company, and don't give more, because this is one of also the mistakes that people do, that you give like, I don't know, 50, 60% to the fund or an angel. So don't never do that, because then you are not investable generally. So to the first funds, just give 10, 15%, max 20, and then you go after the next round. So you have to have space in the company on the cap table. So cap table is like a structure of who owns the equity in your company. So, so just be careful of how much you give this out. So you have space to get the next rounds. And this is also one of the aims for VC funds. So you have like pre-seed round, seed round, A, B, C, and so on. So for us as a pre-seed round, we can wait for you till the exit, till you sell the company, or you can get out at the D round, for example. But generally, it's about increasing the value of your company rather quickly. And to do that, you need a lot of money, probably. And your ownership. So as I said, don't give out too much equity, because it's also about your motivation as a founder and as a team. So if you have more equity, it's more important for you that the company grows in value. And it's also better for us as investors, because we are with you for the long run. So we don't want you, just to make quick revenue and just share that with us, the revenue, because it's not really important at the current moment for us. But for us, the value of the company is the most important. So we will support you, to grow the value of the company, not just focus on revenue from game, for example. So we care that you have also the biggest ownership of the company, because then you care the most about increasing the value, because you also get at the exit, this is your incentive kind of to run this. And that's why I think it's better sometimes if you want to create a company, not just a game, to go with the VC fund, not always just a publisher. So we have a few cases, like how we helped our companies. One of our companies' recent gaming investment is sitting in the third row. So Paweł, you can say hello. So generally, yeah, so we have a few investments, gaming investments, and one of the first one was exit plan. So how the VC can help you is they help you get also the intros to the funds doing the next rounds. So we are pre-seed and seed investor, so we get to know other investors in the VC space, and we show our portfolio to them, and we also share our reputation as a fund. So for us, it's very important that we build our reputation as the fund, and other investors trust us that those are the good investments to follow. And we have funds who even co-invested 5 times with us in other companies, because they trust our gut feeling, kind of what we have done at the early stage, and then go after us. So we have, so Retro Entertainment. So this is a Polish-Finnish company, and recently Bitcraft has led the round into them. So probably you know all Bitcraft. We had exit plan, so one of our actually first ever investments, and we have co-invested with Sisu. So Sisu is a Finnish VC fund, and also one of my business partners is a partner there, and we co-invest sometimes with them. And they have recently had a round from Tencent. We have Instreamly. There is a guy actually in the conference somewhere from Supernode. So this is a UK fund. We have also co-invested with them. And Colopl is an Asian fund. And there is also a team from Matcore, I think. Yeah, so I'm not sure if I can announce your round yet, but yeah, they are also raising a round now and to be announced. Okay. I'm not saying with whom, sorry. Okay, but generally, I think it's going good. And Paweł, you're next. So generally that's the case. So we go into the company and we help them get the next rounds from preferably international investors. Because the aim is not to be local. I don't think anyone here wants that. So everyone wants to have global audience, or at least European, bigger. Okay, so when are you a good fit, generally? That's the question. So I will just quickly tell you how the VC fund thinks when we are thinking if we should invest into you. So we are thinking, okay, in the next few years, I have to sell the equity I have in your company, and I have to think how much will it be worth. So generally, my exit. The VC fund exists for 8 years. So it depends if you came to me when I was in the first year of investing or in the 4th year, because then the time is different on how quickly I have to sell the shares, because it's either 8 years or 4 years. So you have different timing to get the value, to grow the value of your company. So we can go out through IPO, through later stage investors, or through acquisition. So just generally, those are the moments when we sell the shares of your company. And in the VC space, more into startup space, we also say that we are looking for unicorns. So this is like, everyone is looking for unicorns now. So this is like $1 billion worth company. But there's also a dragon company, which I really like here because we are at the Digital Dragons. So generally, a dragon is a company that can give you back the entire fund. So for example, my first fund was 12 million euros. So it's a micro fund. So it's in Polish, it's like, do we have Polish people or international people here? Who's not Polish? Oh, yay, okay. So I'll say in Polish zlotys, sorry. So it's easier for me. So we had 50 million Polish zlotys, for example, our fund. So what I'm looking for is the 50 million exit from the company. So for example, I go into the company, I take 15%. Then there are next rounds. Sometimes I do pro rata investments and so on in the next round just to keep my stake in the company. And let's say I end up at the 10% of the company. So what I'm looking for is that this 10% is worth 50 million of Polish zlotys. So the company would be worth 500. So this is what's my thinking in my head. Can this company do that? And if I can see, okay, this company is cool, but maybe they can grow like, I don't know, to the worth of 10 million max, because they're doing something very niche. Then I'm like, okay, cool guys, I can recommend to you maybe some business angel who can, for this person it will be a nice investment. But for me, it's not enough. Because out of my fund, I will have like 25 investments in my first fund. So out of those 25, some of them will eventually die. And each of those companies has to have a chance to be that one which will give me back the entire fund. Because I have to make money for my investors, so they invest into my next funds, and so then I can invest into next companies. So without that, I cease to exist, kind of. So so that's my thinking when I'm calculating if I should do the investments generally. Okay, so how to get the money from the VC? So generally, first you choose. So I recommend to do a proper due diligence on all of the funds that you're talking with. I think you can have a warm intro, you can have cold email. Generally, we have into Niby, Matcore now, we have invested just after reading a cold email and just responding to Paweł. He wrote an email, I like that, so we had a chat actually in Krakow here. But many investments we have done through the warm intros, because generally Polish ecosystem is quite small, I would say. So it's, we are here at the conference, you can just walk up to me after the conference and start chatting. So, we get to know each other and it's rather easy to do. Or you go through the people from Digital Dragons conference or through acceleration programs. So, if you go from me through people that I trust, it's also easier for me to invest because I can ask someone and to check your reputation at the early stage. Then, usually you have conversation with one partner at the fund. Most of the funds, they have few people there, but in the end, you have to convince the whole group that you are a good investment. Then you sign term sheet, investment agreement, and have a cash. Generally, I would say, don't do this the last minute when you need the money. The process, very fast process, is 2 months, usually with most of the Polish funds. If you are talking with the private fund and international, it can be days to get the money. But I would reserve 2-3 months most for early stage round, and the later you are, the longest time, I would say. And I'm not sure if you know that, but just to quickly just tell you what's in the pitch deck. So generally, if you want to talk with the fund, you send the pitch deck to them. So you just state what's the team, because for us at the early stage, the team is the most important part. So we invest into people because the games can change. You can pivot, you can check with the users that this game is not actually playable. You can have the different idea. So we invest into team, and then they can pivot and change according to the market. And that's the most important. So first, when I talk with the company, I ask, okay, who's on your founding team, and generally on your team, do you have any ESOP program for them? Do you have any things that that keeps people interested in your company? And what's your story? That's what I know. That's the most important. And after I hear the story from the people, I'm like, yeah, those are cool people. They have done cool projects before, so let's work together. Then you talk about the game. So what are you building? Why are you building this current game now? Do you have attraction? So do you have any users? What's the market right now? Because most of the VCs in Poland, they don't do do just gaming investments. So if you reach out to most of the VCs in Poland, they have like 1-2 gaming investments. So in most of the cases, it's useful to just show them the market. Just, guys, this is a growing market, just show them the numbers, and they will appreciate that in most of the cases. Just show them the business model, the marketing plan, long-term plan and vision. So, the plan for building the whole company, not just this one game that you want. And then they ask, so just state clearly, how much you're raising, because then I know if this is a company for me, because if you are raising, let's say, 10 million, and I invest like 1 million usually max, then I know this is not around for me. So that's easy to see if we are a good fit, kind of. And, the VC understands the industry. It's important. And, as I said, in the first year, we had 1,000 companies who applied to us. So in most of the cases, I have like 5-10 minutes to read the deck. If someone very close to me recommended the company to me, I'll spend probably more time or have a call right ahead. But I have to go rather quickly through all of the decks because I don't have time. So I have to like look at the deck. So when it's clear and easy to read, I know, okay, should I have a call with this company or not? So it's very quick to determine that. And generally, in the early stage, when you are just starting to build your company, the credibility and reputation is very important. So what you can do to build your credibility to get your first funding. So the quality of the game, I think that's pretty obvious, but sometimes you look for the funding when you even don't have the game. But also like, how easy it is to test for me the game. I had the case that I spent like an hour trying to open the game, to even start playing, to give the feedback. So in this case, I think, it was rather obvious that I haven't invested into that company because it was too much effort to even start playing that. So I could see, okay, this is not a right moment for them to get the funding. Usually it's the previous gigs you've done. So people from the exit plan, for example. Sorry. So, they have worked at CD Projekt, at Techland, so they have worked at the big titles. They have proven their track record that they can build something. And then they went and built their exit plan, so their own company, kind of, to exit from this big AAA companies. And, if you can show, okay, I have worked on this project, some established name, or I get this many downloads at my previous company, this is something that shows us, okay, this person can deliver. So it's easier for us to invest. So, but if you don't have any track record, it can also be the people that you get interested to work with you. So it can be advisors. So sometimes they're very like young people. We have invested into people who are like 21 years old. Not gaming company actually, but they're creating an app. But at 21 you don't have much experience, but they got actually pretty cool people on board as advisors. And I was impressed that they can get to those people, that they're hustling so much to get them interested, to help them, to advise them, that I was like, yeah, let's start with a small check and let's go forward. So it can also be that. And the quality of the deck, so, if it's easy to read, as I said, and introduction. So you can go to, if you know someone and you have worked together, for example, if you went through acceleration program, they can recommend and they are trusted in the ecosystem, kind of. And the most common reasons for a no. So most of the time, it's when I see that people just want to build a game, not create a company. So that we covered. So that's important to see that you have this long-term vision. The broken cap table. So I will get into that more in the moment when the market is too small or you're just focused on Polish market. So if you just want to build a company that will be worth $10 million, so that's not big enough for me to invest. When you're not focused. So sometimes you start a company, but you also work like full-time for someone else. You have another gig and so on. So when you are have 5 projects on your table, so why should I give the money to someone who is not 100% focused on my company? Sometimes I understand it's not easy to quit your job to start a studio. So sometimes you can do it after hours, but when we invest in this moment, you should be 100%. So you don't have to be at the moment of when we're talking, because I understand you have to also, you have to put the food into your mouth and your family. So that's also important, and we are, I would say, realistic about that. But after the investment, the focus is important. When it's too early or too late. So most of the funds, the VC funds, have the stage that they understand and they know how to do the investment. So we are doing pre-seed and seed. So if you come to me and want Series B investment, I'm not doing that. I don't really most of the cases I wouldn't know, all of the how to assess that, and I don't have the money for that because if I run a small fund, I have like tickets that I can do into all of the companies, and if I have 12 million funds, I want to do a 12 million round B. So go to the investors who are saying that they are doing the concrete stages of the investments and the tickets. That's in most cases it's pretty easy to find, and they should be transparent also about that. So if you don't have headquarters in Poland or the EU, it's a common case for Polish investors because most of the Polish investors, not the private ones, but the ones who are backed by the PFR or NCBR, so this R&D agency, you have to be located in Poland and spend money in Poland. So just when you're talking with the VC, just check where the money comes from because those can be also limitations put on your company. And if you are, for example, based in US, we wouldn't be able to invest into you just because of the headquarters. So that's kind of important. Burn rate. So that's important. Like, if we see that you can spend money wisely, kind of. So if you have at early stage too high burn rate, for us, it's like a no to do the investment. And bad reputation. So because that's in most of the cases that's all what we have. Also for us as a fund. So our reputation is very important. The same goes for the founders. So if we trust you, we can give you the money because we are not like controlling you. We are not sitting on the board and like checking everything. So if I give you the money, I trust that you can spend that wisely. And broken cap table. So as I said, just be careful how much equity you give out to the investors. So at the early stage, it's like 10, 15%, max 20, sometimes 25. So if I go into the pitch deck of the company in the cap table, I can see, for example, there's an angel investor who has 15% of the company. That's too much. Angel investors usually just get like 5% of the company. I think that should be like the highest point. So just look how you structure the cap table and don't give out too much, generally. Sometimes there is debt equity. So it means for example, there were 3 people who started the company. One of them left and he didn't want to be in the company, but he still is on the cap table. So for me, this is debt equity. This is not useful. This is someone who is blocking the cap table for me, and this person is not useful for the company. So if you go after the investment, just talk with the founders and just, I wouldn't say kick this person out, but have like an agreement how to do that. Sometimes this person can stay as an advisor and just be on the lower equity levels. So that's one of the cases. It can be useful. And sometimes it's not useful to start a company to generate costs at the very early stage. So there are things which are called founders agreement. So it's like an agreement between the founders before you actually set up the company like legally. So you can have founders agreement, you state who is what's doing for the company and who is taking how much equity. So when you start the company and you actually go through the legal paperwork, you know how much who is getting. And I had cases that I had to like negotiate between the founders who went through acceleration program, and they were like, oh, we've been friends for 15 years, we don't need founders agreement, like we trust each other. And then after months of working for the acceleration program, they were ready to set up the company and actually get the investments because there was interested investor, and they couldn't agree like who gets how much equity. And the company actually broke down and fell apart because they wouldn't agree. So those are the cases. So just be careful, let's be friends, but also let's be like foot on the ground, kind of, I would say, sorry. So another case of broken cap table is when you have like someone like a software house or a gaming studio that owns too much equity. Because for us, it's about the team who is creating the company. So if there is another company who just set up the company and they just want 70% of the company just because that was their idea, that's too much because the leading team, the founders, the CEO or the CTO, they don't have enough incentive to build this company. There is some other owner. So for us as a venture capital fund, I wouldn't say the incentives are there to trust the founders that they will deliver enough. So that's important. Sometimes if we really like the company, we help them negotiate with the owner, the main owner, to go down. But this is a very intensive process, so I wouldn't recommend that. And another case is one of the co-founders owns more than the other. So it depends on the relationship between the founders. So if you are two founders and you are pretty, like I would say equal, just have 50-50. If there is a case like, I don't know, one person has invested in the company or one person is full-time and the other isn't, then there is a reason not to do that. But if we can't see that the founding team has a proper relationship, that's also a red flag, because we are investing that you as a team can work together and deliver. And if you don't have like the proper relationship and you don't trust each other enough, I would say, then something is not right. So that's also important, that we invest into people, but we also invest into the teams most of the times. And it's important to see how they work together, kind of. It's also, for you as a founders looking at my team. So how I work with my business partners, how we trust each other, and how we cooperate. So you can ask me also about that, or them. And no ESOP. So ESOP is a equity stock option plan. So generally, when you start a company, most of the equity, the founders, are in the founders' hands. But what's important is the first employees also in your company. So those are the people who help you bring the most value into the company. And they often have very influential role in the company. So if they stick with you and if they if they help you get the company running, it's also, and usually in the early stage you don't have enough money to pay them properly, because let's be honest, at the early stage you don't, there's not enough money for everything. So sometimes in order to say thank you to them, kind of, and for building the company with you because they trusted you as the first employees, that they didn't choose a stable job in the corporation, that they went with you with what you're building right now. Just giving them equity in your company is something which can keep them in the company and just show that you are thankful. And usually they also make it or break it for the company, because it's not just the founders. But what's important is there are two terms, so you can have vesting and cliff. So generally what you're doing when you're giving the equity to someone, but you also want to be careful. So you have usually 4-year vesting. So what it means? This person, let's say, gets 4% of the company at 4-year vesting. So it means that only after the full 4 years, you have the 4% of the company. You get just you get piece after piece, month after month, how much you stay with the company. And we also use 1-year cliff. So it means that if you leave before 1 year, you get nothing. Because someone can come to me and stay half a year at the company and just leave. Then they would have the equity in the company. So for me to have equity with the person that was working with me for half a year, it doesn't make sense, to be honest. So that's why you have this safety plan, this 1-year cliff, that this person sticks with you for at least 1 year. And is there a question? Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. So, and one more thing. Usually in the Polish law, it's hard to implement vesting unless you go with the PSA, prosta spółka akcyjna, the new type of company. So usually we do reverse vesting. So what we do is we give the equity to the people, but we sign a sell agreement, option sell agreement. So it says that this person has to sell the shares at the nominal value if they leave, for example, after the 2 years. So you just give the equity, but you make sure that they are forced to sell at the proper valuation at the proper time, kind of. So that's that. But we also say yes, of course. We have few investments. We have 23 right now. So usually we do invest into serial founders. I think this is the most obvious choice. So people who have started their projects, who have already sold their projects. So this is the case when the VC actually goes after the founder and just run after them. We also invest into first-time founders. So if they have early traction, if they have the advisors, so that's what I told you about building the reputation. If you're game developers but with a huge experience and you worked on a huge project, that's also a yes for us, because we can see that you have built actually something, and that's also that you showed that you can deliver. And graduates of acceleration programs. So for example, we are at the Digital Dragons mentoring startups, and we can observe the teams there, work with them, and if we like them, we can also invest into them. So generally, it's either founder validation or game validation, because venture capital investing is high risk investing, but we have to lower the risk somewhere, even at the early stage. So one of two things has to be tested or validated. So either it's a founder validation, so you have track record, or you have game validation, so the game is working and has traction. So something needs to be proven somewhere, kind of. Yeah, so generally, if you are getting ready to raise a round, so set the terms, so know how much equity you want to give out and how much money you need and for how long. Sorry. Do a research, so look for the funds who are investing at your stage in your industry and check the previous investments from them, and also check the team and the fund's reputation. That's one of the most important things. So you go with the funds who are known in the ecosystem and who have a good reputation, because they can do a lot of harm if they have bad reputation, and even if they don't seem so. And so that's why it's important. And talk with the portfolio. So always when I invest into a company, I tell them, just talk with my portfolio companies, because I can say a lot of nice things about me and what I'm doing. And you know, you shouldn't like trust me with that. So just talk with my portfolio companies, and they will tell you if you should work with me. And in the most cases, because we've been investing for like 2.5 years, so we haven't done any exits yet. But usually, I would say, talk with the portfolio founders of the fund that have made exits, because during the exit, you can see the behavior of the fund, what they have done, how they fought on the terms of the exit, because sometimes that's when the bad stuff comes out. And yeah, that's that. And check where the money comes from. So you know if you have any limitations from the investors into the fund. So you have to be where you have to be based or something like this, you know, and get in touch. So pretty easy, yeah. Okay, so thank you. Okay, I kept my time. I tried to be very quick, so if you have questions, we can just have a talk. I think we can share the presentation slides somewhere, and most of the things which are useful are on our website in the FAQ. For example, if you want to check how the term sheet looks like, we have also this on our website, so you can just go and read through that, so that can be useful. Yeah, and thank you. Are there any
it's time for questions.
Okay, so that was either bad or good. You know, if you're scared, you can just find me later. I think I will be pretty easy to find, hopefully, or email me. Oh, there's a question. Come on.
Do you do due diligence yourself, or do you expect the company to be all prepared and, you know, with all the documents ready, and you just go in and have a little look and go, yeah, we'll invest in you? Or do you expect the company to do the due diligence with, I don't know, another advisor, lawyer, and then come to you with, you know, clean stuff?
So it's kind of neither. Okay, so I think startups think that funds do much more due diligence than we actually do, especially at the early stage. At the early stage, what I can check is your reputation and what you've done, and I can look at your game's concept and the market. But most of the cases, there's nothing else in the company, so there's not much to do due diligence on. So usually the company comes to me with a pitch deck, and that's enough. I don't need more from you. Maybe during the process we will have basic financial plan and so on. So if I decide to invest into the company, we have official documents for the committee, like the business plan and so on, because we have our public investors, so we have to show to them also that this is a good company to invest into. So we go through those documents. I think Paweł can tell you, how much work it is. I don't. Yeah, it's. Yeah. Okay. Can we give Paweł a microphone? Because I can hardly hear him, to be honest.
Okay, I wanted just to add that it took us around half a year to do all the paperwork, check the stuff, because it's a back and forth. So you send out an email to an VC. Just imagine you have one point of contact, and then you have two points of contact because you have two VCs, and then you have four. And everybody wants to check everything. And they want to do it in different languages, and they want to do it with different naming, whatever. So yeah, just multiply that.
Yeah, this happens. Yeah, so generally, yeah, it can happen, especially if you have fund with public money. So you have to document everything kind of. So that's why it's also sometimes it's better to go for the private money, but there's not a lot of that on the Polish market. Yeah, but we're working on that. Any other questions?
Thank you for your presentation. I would like to ask what kind of smart money do you provide? Because you mentioned that your fund is rather new, but I'm sure you also provide smart money.
So we are kind of new. Yeah, so we have been investing for 2.5 years as Smok, but we have 4 partners. We have 2 partners on Polish ground, kind of, and 2 in the US. So in Poland, that's me and Boris Musielak, and I'm doing the gaming investments and Boris software, rather. I'm doing gaming and software generally. And we have Paul and Dan Bragiel. So they are based in the US, and Paul he has over 100 gaming investments. He has shares in Unity, in Niantic, so I would say pretty good companies. And he actually started by founding his own gaming company in 1990 something, and he had this company in US and in Polish. He actually hired people in Wrocław. He has Polish roots, so he was always close to the Polish market. And he has a few funds all around the world. So he has two funds in the US. One is just doing VR, AR. He has fund in Asia, in Africa, and he has one in Finland doing just gaming investments. And he's doing gaming investments via the funds or by himself. But he has over 100 of them, so I would say he has pretty good connections also all around the world to other gaming funds. And also we do. So for example, one of the investments into Instreamly, I have talked. There is a woman in VC network. So where I met Phoebe from Supernode, and one of her friends is also here at the conference. So I was talking with her, and I was like, "Hey, I have this company, and you might like that." And and then in the end they invested. So I also make friends. Let's just keep build relationships with other funds doing later stage investments than us. So for example, last week I was in Berlin also talking with the funds which are rather doing later stage investments and build relationships which are useful for my founders, I would say. Yeah. Any more?
Hi. Yeah, this is more of an investment-related question. Are there any unique quirks to investing in the Central Eastern European region that American investors in particular would need to look out for when they're first moving in here, or in your experience at least?
Are there any? What was the word?
Unique quirks, things to look out for, like specifics about the region. Oh, that's probably a good
in the
one.
gaming sphere. Yeah. That's a good question. I think. I would say to go more into this region as a investors who are west located more, because I think there is still a trend right now that they're more going east with the investments, and not everyone is doing I think in the emerging Europe there is still not enough money being invested there, and rather into later stages. So I would say to go into that and look into that and look into the talent, because there is a lot of talent in the engineering talent, dev talent in this region. I would probably ask about the business side, because we have great technical talent, but not always. Sometimes we need a push into business direction more. And I think we pitch differently. So Polish people are more calm, and we're not we are the best in the world and so on. So that's how Americans pitch most of the time. And if you are investor from the US, you are more accustomed to this kind of pitching from the people. So sometimes when you talk with the people from Poland, you might get that they're not pumped enough or excited enough about their company, but they are just not showing this much in the American style. So I think that can influence sometimes the outcomes of the talks. But also Polish people, you can be like more energetic sometimes when you're pitching. Okay.
Anyone?
Łukasz, can you see some more?
Probably it was the last question.
Okay. Well, we are perfect, almost perfect on time, so I'm happy with
Right.
that. So if you want to find me, I will be here for like probably next 15 minutes, and then I will go around conference till the evening. So you know, or you have my email, so you know, just email me.
Thank you, Diana.